So Unity just made an announcement. If you use their game engine, you will have to pay per download. That is, if a player downloads your game, you will have to pay Unity for that. So how does this affect you if you're not a game developer, but rather you just play games? Now, this already sounds pretty bad for developers, but the fee only kicks in if the game makes more than $200,000 in revenue and 200,000 downloads in the last 12 months. On top of that, if your license that you use is Unity Plus, which is what most indie developers that I've talked to that publish on consoles and stuff like that use, then you have to only pay 20 cents per install. Doesn't sound that bad, right? If you release a game that costs about $15 and you have to pay 20 cents per install, then you pay Unity the equivalent of about 1.3% of your game's sale, which is much less than Unreal Engine's 5% over their own thresholds. However, paid installs is not the problem, and before I explain, let me explain how the free Epic Game Store program works. It seems a bit irrelevant at the moment, but trust me, in a few seconds it's going to make a lot of sense. So basically, every week, Epic Games makes a game for free, right? So you can go on the Epic Game Store and there's a free game that you can install. And well, what they do for this is that as a developer, they pay you to be able to put your game up for free. In the lawsuit between Epic Games and Apple, some documents went public, and among those were the disclosures of how much Epic paid per game and how many installs that game got. So for instance, Rime, which many would consider to be an indie game, got paid $45,000 and got installed 2.4 million times. And looking through other free game examples that Epic paid for, it seems to be pretty standard to pay this amount and get this amount of downloads. Now, using Unity's pricing table, if there is a game that is in a similar situation to Rime, and maybe it's like a few developers, one or two, like a small indie team, which is not uncommon, I've seen games that went free on Epic and have this sort of setup, well, it would have to pay 20 cents per install on 2.4 million installs, and that equals $480,000, and they only got paid $45,000 for this deal, which means that they lost $435,000 just by putting their game for free on the Epic Game Store. Something that usually would be just a clean $45,000 profit is now an extreme loss by almost 10 times. Now, if you pay for Unity Pro, which you might do if you're a bigger company, you would have to do a bit more math, but this would equate to having to pay $88,000. So you're still losing a substantial amount of money, and you also have to pay for the Pro subscription, which is more expensive, so you lose out no matter what. Now, if you think this is bad for free games on Epic Game Store, because, no developer is going to put their game for free if they're using Unity, and they're just going to lose money by doing so, now imagine how bad this is for Game Pass, which has an estimated 25 million users. Imagine how bad this is for Steam demos, Humble Bundles, or charity bundles. So tying it back to the beginning, this is not only bad for developers for very obvious financial reasons, it's also bad for players because they're not going to be able to play Unity games on Game Pass or free Epic Store games, stuff like that. So we get less choice as players. The install fee is not really the problem in my opinion if it was just charged on a game purchase, but it's an insane problem for other ways of selling your game if you're a developer. Let's hope that Unity rolls back this decision, because not only is it terrible for developers, it's also bad for players. It's a lose-lose for everyone, including Unity, because if Unreal or Godot is more profitable and less of a headache than Unity for developers, you bet the developers are going to be leaving in droves. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to buy my game Soulstalker, because being a developer just got harder if this change goes through. The link is in the description, and the background footage that you've been seeing throughout this video is from that game, so make sure to check it out. See you next video, and hopefully I'll still be in business by then.